How is that for audio? Okay. So sorry to hear that the audio wasn't working immediately, but here we are connecting again. You're in the right place for confident networking and building meaningful connections. Definitely introduce yourself if you haven't yet already. Perfect to hear that the sound is working. And yes, introduce yourself, where you're currently based. And as I said before, and I just want to make very clear that I've hosted many sessions, is there are no silly questions. There are no questions that you can recognize, oh, is this question going to make me look bad? Because as you ask that question, what you're doing is you're opening the opportunity for other people in the community to learn and to grow our collective knowledge on topics related to career, related to networking, related to interviewing, and related to public speaking and confidence as well. Thank you everyone who highlighted about the audio. Definitely, I'll stay on for a couple more minutes just to make sure we have those 30 minutes, because as you know, these 30 minutes go by so quickly. And I want to make sure you have as much actionable advice that you can take with you and use to support our community as well. If you haven't introduced yourself, or even let me know how many sessions you've attended so far, whether it's my session, Nordma's session, Danny's session, definitely let me know as we go along. Fantastic. Oh, I love this, Isabella, introducing yourself, and very pleased to meet everyone. This is an opportunity to network every single week, but the networking doesn't have to stop here. So let us get into our session on networking, shall we? Before we get started, I do want to introduce myself because, again, I know so many people here are attending for the first time, or someone here shared the recording of this talk to someone who hasn't yet joined the sessions. And so to introduce myself, my name is Sammy Walker Herrera, and I'm a confidence and public speaking coach. I work directly with senior and executive level leaders to build their long-term confidence through a committed speaking practice, expert feedback, and accountability. It's very easy to set a goal, let's say a New Year's resolution, or a goal at our birthday, or some significant milestone in our year, and recognize that we're not really hitting that goal unless someone is checking in with us and saying, hey, have you practiced your public speaking? Hey, have you spoken up more at work? Hey, I know that you were thinking about submitting for this conference. Have you done so? And are there any barriers to doing so? And so having a coach can be something that can be really helpful to build in that accountability. And you can even start with someone who's a good friend of yours to build in that accountability as well. So grateful to see so many more folks introducing themselves. And if you haven't already, I want to give permission, because I know some people feel a little bit hesitant or nervous when connecting with someone who is speaking live. But if you haven't added me on LinkedIn, feel free to do so. I want to make sure we connect and we're really building this community, and I can invite you to more talks like this. All right. Well, I want to know from all of you. I already see so much engagement in the chat, but I want to know from you, what is your next networking event? There's probably a reason that you attended this specific session on networking, and it might be urgency. It might be, I have something coming up later this week. I have a networking event I'm going to next month. So let me know what your next networking event is. Already seeing so many more connections here in the chat as well. See, Jacqueline is looking to break out of her introvert shell at work. And I know so many people here are introverts, and so many fantastic public speakers and folks who feel very confident speaking up are introverts as well. Let's see, someone is saying not many networking events in London. I know some events are fully virtual, some are hybrid, so we get the opportunity to choose between or attend both, as well as in person. Let's see, seeing from Alejandra, I'm going to Women in Tech event tomorrow here in Miami. Yvette has an event that she's going to next week. Elizabeth is looking forward to something that's happening in September. Never too early to gain some strategies and skills to help you out, especially because sometimes we might be invited to a networking event that we didn't anticipate going to. And so knowing these strategies ahead of time and having them in your back pocket can be really helpful. see. Excellent. Okay. And let me know too, what types of networking events do you find harder? Is it harder to network on Zoom or is it harder to network in person? Let me know because I want to make sure as I'm going through this presentation, I'm tailoring the tips to what you find will be the most helpful for you. But it looks like there are events that are going on in person, which is fantastic. Let's see. Isabella here is trying to break out of the if you want it done right, do it yourself mindset and maximize engagement even over virtual platforms like Zoom. And this is something that we'll talk about as well. Alejandra is saying that there's a lot of networking events geared toward founders, entrepreneurs, tech, and there's a gap in the market for more casual networking events for professionals. That is something I'm noticing as well. There seem to be a lot more local casual events, but sometimes those larger events might be a lot more toward founders, especially as startups are looking for more support or to hire as well. And so if anyone can think of great casual networking events that you like to attend regularly, don't hesitate to put them in the chat as well. Now, when you're going to a networking event, it's key to recognize what are the goals of a networking event. Sometimes a goal for one of these events could just be breaking out of your shell, practicing connecting with other folks. But when you're thinking about it in a job seeking or in a career promoting way, you want to think about how can I meet key people who can let me know about jobs or opportunities that are coming up even earlier than they're put out there. There are many roles where internally a company or many people in the company know, hey, we're going to be hiring for this role moving forward. We just haven't posted the job yet. So connecting with key decision makers and folks who know about these roles earlier can be really helpful to be proactive about that job search. Additionally, especially if you are a founder or an entrepreneur, one thing that's helpful is making sure that your services are seen, that you're able to connect with folks who might be able to make decisions about your services. And if you're a job seeker, that it's more likely that your resume is seen because you're building that relationship with people who can support you, whether they're the key decision maker or they're someone who can offer that referral and connection as well. Oh, I'm already seeing so many more connections here in the chat. Tracy is saying, if anyone knows any good networking events in LA, please reach out or let me know. So I'm really glad as I'm talking and sharing these strategies and what these goals look like, that you all are being really proactive and using this as a networking opportunity as well. Now, I want to ask y'all, do you know about what a weak tie is or what that theory is? Strong ties and weak ties. And this is all in the context of relationship building. So as you're thinking about that, am I familiar with weak ties? Am I not familiar with weak ties? Or you're sharing different networking events that are in LA or other parts of the world, I'll share more about this theory and how it can be really helpful. A strong tie is someone that you know very well. Let's say it is your favorite colleague or even your best friend. The person that you connect with really regularly, who's your colleague, someone who's a mentor of yours already, your best friend, has already probably shared with you the different jobs, opportunities, scholarships, conferences, resources that they know. It's always good to check in with your close network and see, hey, are there any updates or any ways that you can support them? But what you want to do is you not only want to lean on the folks you know really well, but what you want to do is start developing more of these weak ties. So I'm going to make an assumption that most of the people here in this roster in the comments don't know each other quite yet. We might have some folks who've introduced each other, who invited each other to this talk, but I imagine most of y'all don't know each other quite yet. That is the perfect grounds for building those weak ties. So the weak tie is, hey, I know Alejandra, I know Isabella, I know Victoria from this Latina Professionals talk. We have that in common. But Isabella, Alejandra, Victoria, they all have this network of people I don't know yet that they can introduce me to. So what that does is building more connections with folks that you don't quite know yet can help you have a broader reach about, again, jobs, resources, opportunities that you might not have heard about from your network that you've already tapped into. I find it helpful to do two things, which is to really connect with your current network. If you haven't connected with some of your strong ties just for updates, definitely do so. But you do really want to get to know new people so that they can offer you new perspectives, new fonts of information, and new resources as well. That can be a little bit intimidating if you're not so used to networking, if you consider yourself really shy, or you consider yourself bad at networking. The thing is, just like public speaking, just like job searching, just like resume writing, networking is a skill. Networking is something that you can get better at with more and more practice and correct practice as well. And so I'm seeing a lot of strong networking practices here in the comments, which is fantastic. So I'm hoping that not only do you connect with me here on LinkedIn, but you're actively connecting with folks here who are based in maybe even different geographical areas, different parts of the nation or different parts of the world, so that you can be able to tap into some of those opportunities and connect as well. So I hope that's helpful for you as you think about, okay, it's not just about the people I already know really well. There is a lot of networking strength to meeting new people. It might seem a little bit obvious, but I feel like having that background about that broader reach from weak ties makes it easier to conceptualize networking, especially if we're more nervous about it. Now, when you're going to a networking event, whether it's virtual, hybrid, in person, a combination of all of those, is that you want to set some goals ahead of time. You want to get a sense of what makes that event successful for you in some way. It's very easy to be hard on ourselves and either set a goal that's way too high or to not set any goals at all and feel kind of a vague sense of, did I make the most of this opportunity to connect with people and build some more weak ties? So some examples that we can think about for setting goals would be, I want to connect with 5 new contacts. It could be, from this event, I want to have 2 collaborations. So when you think about it, okay, if I want to have 2 collaborations, that means that you might want to connect with a specific type of person. Maybe that means you do research ahead of the networking event, especially if there's a guest list or people are posting about that event so that you know, hey, these are the type of people who are attending, and these are the folks I can do some type of collaboration with, whether it's a podcast, a workshop, an article, a blog that you're writing, things like that. So let me know in the comments, what are some goals that you've set in the past related to networking? It can even be, I really want to meet this specific person. And so perhaps you start connecting with more people and figuring out where that person is, how they're connecting, how you can connect with them. So let me know, what are some of the goals you've set in the past, or what are some goals that you would like to set for your next event? Victoria, yes, getting in touch with your current connections plus making new connections. Doing both of those at the same time, honestly, can be very overwhelming. So it's good to choose one, focus on that, and then get to the other one as well. One thing that can cause a lot of burnout, whether it's the job search or just generally networking to learn about new opportunities as an entrepreneur, for example, is doing too much all at the same time and doing them all in different ways that feels overwhelming. So if you haven't, let's say, refreshed your network yet from the people that you already know, focus on that for a little bit and then get to those new connections as well. You never know from your strong ties who you can introduce to your new weak ties so that you can follow up and build value with them as well. Awesome. I'm seeing someone here that agrees with virtually connecting with people here through Latina professionals workshops. Fantastic. I'm seeing a lot of names come up multiple times, but every single time I host one of these sessions, there's always new people coming on because of the topic interest, because they've just joined Latina professionals as well. So it's a great way to very regularly connect with new people. Let's see. Alexis, one goal I'd like to set is to make connections on a role that I would like to pursue. That's fantastic. One thing that you can do is make that goal just a bit more specific. Maybe from a networking event, you connect with 3 people with the similar job title. If you know you want to connect with folks from that similar job title, then it's good to do that research ahead of time so that you don't feel overwhelmed talking to 50 people when you're trying to find those 3 key people. Now, if you're attending an event and it's only people who are, for example, senior project managers, then you're probably good. Let's see. Goal 1, build partnerships. Goal 2, connect my business with the needs of my new connections. Okay. Seeing from Isabella, I'd like to get to know at least 5 new people from various fields. Important to learn through people and branch out interests. So one thing I like about your comment here, Isabella, is the specificity. 5 people. What we want to do, and if you aren't familiar with SMART goals, highly recommend looking into that. SMART is an acronym that stands for specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, and time-bound. And that allows you to make sure that you have a really great sense of, for example, what does build partnerships mean? Does that goal could be a little bit vague, and adding that specificity will allow you to know whether or not you were truly successful at that networking event as well. Okay. Now, when we're thinking about networking events, one of the things that really scares people sometimes is one's elevator pitch. And I want to highlight a 3-part structure that I use with my clients and I use when I teach students interviewing and networking tips as well. And that structure for the elevator pitch is present, past, future. Now, before I break that down, let me know in the chat if you have an elevator pitch. If you know what an elevator pitch is. I don't like to assume that everyone knows exactly what that is. And I want to use this time to make sure it's as beneficial as possible here. So let me know if you have that elevator pitch. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, that's fine. Let me define that for you. An elevator pitch comes from the idea that if you were in an elevator with someone that you were dying to meet at a networking event, that you would love to share a quick introduction to, and you want to make sure that you leave a lasting impression, you want to be able to talk about yourself in a way that if you were going from the first floor of a building to the 20th or 30th floor of a building, that you were able to use that time in the elevator to introduce yourself. I know some people are definitely familiar with that. If that's a new concept to you, I'm glad that that's helpful. I see here, Stephanie, I don't yet have an elevator pitch and I don't quite know how to get started. So let's talk about that 3-part formula. What that is, again, is present, past, future. And one of the keys for an elevator pitch is you want it to be short. You want it to be under a minute, about 45 seconds or so. So this is something that you want to practice multiple times just to make sure that it's a bit shorter. It's kind of like tell me about yourself in an interview. You want to make sure that that's about a minute and a half max. But for an elevator pitch, you want it to be a lot shorter as well, because you want to be able at a networking event to meet as many people as you can and really get a sense of if their goals match with your goals. So again, we have present, past, and future. Present is part of introducing yourself. So I'll highlight an example elevator pitch for myself. Hi, my name is Sammy Walker Herrera, and I am founder of Speak Y'all, which is a one-on-one personalized public speaking coaching business. One thing that I've been focusing on quite a bit is connecting with different organizations, nonprofits, for-profit organizations to highlight different public speaking workshops. So that's present. That highlights what is my focus now? Why am I here in some ways? Then you have past. Past is a way of giving evidence to what you talked about in the present. So for example, in my case, in the past, something that I might highlight is in the last year and a half, I've coached about 50 executives on their fear of public speaking and how to address nerves when they're speaking on the spot at work. Whether that's giving a presentation and then having the Q&A, that is speaking up during a meeting, or even, for example, attending a networking event, I've coached these folks both in groups and individually to really get a sense of where that fear is coming from and how they can address it through a committed speaking practice. So again, you have your present, you have your past, and then your future is the way that you describe why you're there at that event. One of the reasons I'm attending this event is I'm looking to connect with folks who want to collaborate on blogs, on podcasts, and any articles as well. I see that you work in marketing, and I'd love to learn more about X. So when you use present, past, and then future, it really gives a sense of who you are, what evidence of who you are, and why you're at that event and how you want to connect. I hope that's helpful for you. I know elevator pitches can be a bit tricky. We can have a whole workshop only on elevator pitches, but I wanted to highlight that structure. So that's something that you can start working on even today. And you can even post a version of your elevator pitch in the comments as well for any feedback or support, because we have an excellent community of folks who want to support, who are either from the same industry as you or even other coaches as well. Now, when we're thinking about virtual events, one thing that can be really important is to make sure you update your online presence, that you update your LinkedIn, that you update your website, especially if you're in an arts or graphic media or marketing discipline. Updating your portfolio can be really helpful as well, because you want to make sure that when folks are researching about you, or you're sending them materials, you're connecting with folks, that you have the most updated information to make it clear how you can have that collaboration or what makes you a very qualified candidate for that person's role. I'm really glad to hear that the elevator pitch example was helpful for all y'all. Glad to use myself as an example, because one thing that I believe in very profoundly is that I'm not going to teach my clients things, or people who are attending my webinars things that I haven't tried myself. And yeah, sometimes I still get a little bit nervous speaking in person or speaking in public. It's totally natural. The idea is not to get rid of the fear entirely, it's to be able to manage it very well. So when you're attending a virtual event, again, updating your portfolios or materials is very helpful. Additionally, it's very helpful to make sure that at some point you're able to hop on a call with someone. The goal for virtual networking events is not just to get names or get new people on your LinkedIn connections list, but it is to hop on a call so that you're actually more and more developing that relationship. It's very hard to get a referral from someone who doesn't know you, because referrals are based on trust and reputation. So for example, if someone referred me for a specific job, but they didn't really know me at all, and I did a horrible job at the interview, or it was clear that I was not the best match for that role, the person interviewing can go back to the referrer and say, "Why did you recommend Sammy for that? I don't understand what that was about. I feel like my time was wasted." So when you're asking for referrals, or you're hoping that people could propose giving you a referral, it's really important that there's more and more of those relationships built. And the thing is, with a weak tie, you don't have to elevate them to best friend status, but you do want to hop on a call, connect with them, learn about their history, ask for advice, and then connect again so that you recognize that there is a value exchange there. Now, one thing I've noticed for both in-person as well as virtual events, a lot of people have asked me about this, is should I have a business card? What does that look like? My answer for this, and I try to be as direct as possible, is that it's less about the business card and more about what you do to connect. When I was in grad school, I attended conferences related to student affairs because that was my area of focus, student affairs and higher education. And I remember printing out 100 business cards, having them in a little tin and passing them out to a bunch of folks that I had short conversations with. So I had printed, as I said, those 100 business cards. And out of those 100 business cards, guess how many people reached back out to me? Share a number in the comments. Your brains are rattling, you're thinking about that. 100 is a good number because it really allowed some testing right there too. The number of business cards that I ended up getting back, or not business cards I got back, but the number of contacts I got from folks. So I'm seeing 6, I'm seeing 2, 5, 3, 1. Again, there's 100 business cards. Tracy and Christina are correct. I got 2 emails from folks back. But I remember I collected about 50 business cards myself. And I was able to reach out to every single person who gave me their business card, and I got about 25 responses back. It's a lot more important to collect the information, collect business cards, collect LinkedIn profiles, collect emails, and take on the responsibility and control of doing that outreach. As you outreach, it becomes a lot easier. You're a lot more used to it. You're able to, for example, maybe create templates for those emails as well. But having a business card, or even, for example, showing your LinkedIn QR code, highlighting to folks how they can contact you, it's very important, especially if someone says, I want to email you. What's your email? But it's really important that you are being a lot more proactive about connecting with other folks, because that's where a lot more of the relationship building will go. And people really value feeling like they're sought after for their advice, and that when you made a promise and said, hey, I'm going to reach out, thank you for your card, that you did so. I see Victoria, you're asking, do I have templates? And my assumption is you're asking about business card templates. If you're talking about business card templates, one place that's a fantastic option to look at is Canva. They have a lot of great business card templates for both job seekers as well as folks who own businesses. And that's a great way to add a little bit more of your own creativity when you are applying for different roles or you're connecting with folks in networking events as well. Now, one question that can be really helpful, especially for an in-person networking event, is what brought you here? Again, let's go back to those goals that you set. Let's say you set goals to meet 3 people who are senior project managers. It's really important to ask things like, what brought you here? To get a sense of what their goals are and if they're serious about that networking as well. There might be some times in the past when you networked where you felt like you wasted time because there was someone there who wasn't really related to the conference, wasn't really interested. And there's also a lot of pressure asking someone, tell me about yourself. Because I imagine you don't love it when people ask you that. So if you ask other people that, you're putting them on the spot. And if they haven't worked with me on how to speak on the spot, it's a bit uncomfortable making at times. Let's see, Jacqueline, embarrassing confession. Have never used a LinkedIn QR code. So Jacqueline, not an embarrassing question at all. Like I said on earlier, anytime we ask a question in these types of sessions, all you're doing is helping not only yourself, but everyone else who's here. So LinkedIn on the mobile app, I believe, you can get a QR code from the settings so that people can scan it and add you on LinkedIn. And it's not a feature that's only for premium. So it's something to look out for if you have the LinkedIn mobile app, which can make it a lot easier for in-person networking events, whether you have a business card or you're not using a business card as well. So let's see here. Yep. Brianna is saying, nope, it's available all on the search bar as well. Really great tip here too. I hope it was helpful thinking about different strategies for both virtual and in-person networking that can be helpful for you. Oftentimes people think, oh, they're going to be completely different. But again, the main things are introducing yourself, asking great questions, and being able to find a way to continue that relationship and that communication as well. So I want to end off this presentation really thinking about effective follow-up. So let's say you meet someone at a networking event and you want to hop on a Zoom call with them, or you already were in a Zoom call through a virtual networking platform, and you want to be able to reach back out to that person without feeling icky or without feeling like you're asking for too much. So here are a couple ways that you can follow up that I've used that didn't make me feel icky at all, that made me feel like, wow, I'm actually building relationships with folks that I've met from these conferences. And that first one is to share updates. Let's say within the first couple of weeks after meeting that person that you landed a new job, or you landed a couple of interviews, or you're moving to a new part of the country. It could be helpful to say, so for example, hey Tracy, it was so great connecting with you at the NASPA conference. I wanted to share an update that I'm actually moving to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, which means I'll be a lot closer to where you're based. Definitely let me know if you have been to Pittsburgh before and you have any travel recommendations. So it doesn't even have to be 100% about the professional search or the career searches fully. It can be a lot more about that personal connection. As you've noticed on LinkedIn, if you're checking your feed, not every single post people talk about are about their promotions or about their new jobs. Sometimes it's about the struggle being an entrepreneur. Sometimes it's the top 5 things we didn't know about in product management. Sometimes it is how to network appropriately and learn from a public speaking coach. So, as you think about building your professional contacts, you can also highlight some of those personal updates as well. Another thing that you can talk about in your follow up is if you ask someone for advice in your first connection with them. It's a fantastic idea to reach back out and let them know that you not only acted on the advice, but what happened as well. There are so many times people sign up to be a mentor, whether it's more formally or informally. They share advice and then they never hear back from that person. Sometimes they don't even hear a thank you at all. And one way to really respect someone's time and also share a thank you is to highlight that, hey, you recommended I listen to this audiobook. I did, and these are my top 3 learnings. The next thing I'm going to do is X. Thank you so much. It's very flattering and it really helps build the relationship as well, because that person knows, wow, if I share more advice or share more resources, this person is more likely to use them. And you can also build just a lot more goodwill regarding referrals as well. Lastly, one of my favorite ways to follow up is to share a resource. There have been times I've met someone. For example, I met someone who focuses a lot on sustainability related to highways and roadways. And I saw a post on LinkedIn about Coldplay having a sustainability report. Coldplay is a pretty well-known band from the UK, and they're one of the first bands to have a sustainability report regarding their travel and their concerts. So I decided, hey, Sam, I know that you focus a lot on sustainability, and I forwarded that article on to him. And the thing is, I didn't have any particular, let's say, reason to do so. I wasn't trying to get a job. I wasn't trying to network. I wasn't trying to have him introduce me to a person. I wasn't asking him to be a client. I just thought of him and I thought he would think it was really interesting. And so if you share a resource, whether that's a book, a podcast, a blog, something that you created, that can be a really great way to build that value and let another person know that you're thinking of them. And that keeps you to the top of their mind as well. So I hope that's something that can be really helpful for you as you think about ways to follow up, is just generally being curious and sharing some value as you go along as well. Now, I know we have a lot of engaged folks in the comments, so if there's other tips that you've used that have really helped you with your networking game, definitely share that with our community here. And I would love to share them on and include them in future presentations as well. Now, I'm going to leave some time open for Q&A. So as you're highlighting any questions you have in the chat, I want to highlight that I'm hosting another workshop this upcoming Monday on magnetizing attention, how to captivate and engage your audience. There are going to be many times when you are hosting a presentation and you know that you want to gain people's attention right from the start. And that doesn't mean being silly or being a clown, but for example, humor could be a great way to engage folks and highlight on any shared interest as well. So I want to make sure that if you are hosting any presentations coming up, or this is just an area of possible interest for you, that you're here attending this session live so I can answer your questions live as well. Now, if you're curious about working with me, you recognize, hey, I want to build up my networking, or I'm a bit too scared to network. These tips are very helpful for me, but I struggle to feel and sound confident. I feel overwhelmed with racing thoughts or freezing, and you know that you're ready to move toward a new level of leadership, definitely connect with me as well. I would love to connect with you here on LinkedIn, as well as through my website and through Latina Professionals. So if you haven't yet joined the Latina Professionals community formally through membership, definitely consider that. It's a really great place for more networking opportunities, more in-depth professional development, and a lot more education for those who are moving toward the executive level. If you haven't connected with me on my website, that is www.speakyall.com. You can connect with me, Sammy@speakyall.com, and we talk more about coaching opportunities or even other speaking opportunities. I'm really grateful for everyone who has connected here, has shared their thoughts, and has learned from each of these sessions, because I know I learn more and more from every person who connects as well. So definitely, again, stay connected, continue highlighting any other strategies or tips that have been helpful for you, and I will see you next week.